So those are just some of my thoughts. As always, I am ready to hear your thoughts. Today, I am going to start by picking on Mo because she seems so happy over there and excited. And I'm going to let her speak first. And then from there, we can go. Please raise your hand if you have something to say. I know Tashawn's just going to speak out because that's what Tashawn does. But, everybody else, if you definitely want to say something, I'll call on you if you raise your hand. All right, come on, Mo. Tell me something.
All right. Well, I'm just really glad that you chose this topic to speak about, because even the church that I go to out here, I do notice that it's more for the married couple, and the single couple, the single person isn't really talked about. So I'm really, excited to hear what other people think on that, and what the church should be doing more to cater to the single, or to give them more confidence to prepare themselves, for someone that they may be interested in. And also I've seen one of the comments, someone made a point that the church should actually teach you how to talk to the opposite sex, because not everybody that you talk to is supposed to be your husband or wife. And I think, unfortunately, that expectation, when you do start to talk to someone of the opposite sex, you have that expectation or that hope, like, could this be the one? Could this be my partner? And I do think that the church should give singles more permission to just be able to be friends with the opposite sex, and not go in expecting or hoping on something, because not everybody's going to be your husband or your wife. So I just do think the preparation is lacking when it comes to these churches, especially these mega churches. It really is all about the family, which is great, because the family has to know and understand how to sustain. But I feel like us single people, we are secluded, and we're not really preached to. And instead, we got to go and find it in a self-help book. So I just think, yeah, everything that you said is true. I just think the singles are excluded, and churches should just actually prepare singles on how to befriend the opposite sex and help manage those expectations, because not everybody you talk to is going to be your husband or your wife. So yeah.
Awesome. Okay, let's listen to Tiffany. She's got her hand up. Come on, Tiffany.
So, I just want to say, to piggyback off of that and some of the things that we were chatting about this week, about healthy singles, and how Mo was just talking about not having, not assuming everybody's your, husband or wife when you talk to them, learning how to talk to the opposite sex. I think that's the thing too. When, churches do give a platform, which is very rare, to a singles ministry, the goal is always to get them married off. It's never to teach them how to be a healthy, kingdom single. It's never to just teach them how to be victorious in their single life. Like, it's so much more than just about, celibacy. It's so much more than, just, oh, Jesus is your husband and all that other kind of stuff. It's like, teach us, it gives us a platform to interact with each other and to become healthy, so that when we finally do get married, we are healthy. And I actually used to go to church with you, Joseph, so I know exactly what you're talking about as far as agenda is concerned. I remember when they first started doing the hour prayers on Wednesdays during the pandemic, early on, they spent the whole hour praying for marriages. It was like, okay, and I finally got off. I'm like, you obviously not, thinking about, the singles, like we're not, in this pandemic too. Like, you gonna pray for marriages the whole hour? So yeah, it's just a thing of gross neglect.
No, I'm definitely with that. Come on, Maisha.
Okay, so I was in a singles ministry at a church I used to attend for a while. And one of the things that I found to be a recurring theme of the singles ministry is that it was boring. It was almost like punishment for going. We would go on Friday nights, and it would be like a Bible study. And at the end, we'd hear a lecture about why we shouldn't have sex. We're adults, why you weren't supposed to masturbate, You couldn't spend time with the opposite sex alone. And you definitely didn't kiss anybody because kissing led to other things. And this was preached to us over and over again. And I was like, at the end, like, how are you supposed to really talk to anybody and get to know them? Because one, it's a Bible study format. And two, you're so scared after you've heard that to say the wrong thing that you don't want to go up to anybody. So that's my first thing. The second thing, because I don't always get in, I got some issues with the comments about women pursuing men. I know this has come up on some of our previous discussions that men say it takes them longer to know whether or not they're interested in women, this and that. And I think men by nature, you guys are natural hunters. And so men have said over and over that for them, relationships are about the thrill of the chase. And if there's no chase, they're not interested. So I'm interested in hearing the men's thought on that when the woman is the one doing the pursuit.
Well, I would like to comment on that. I mean, being that it's, 21st century basically, and, it's more acceptable for women to do pursuing than it was in the days of our, say, our grandparents. And with men doing the pursuing and the thrill of the chase and all that, in human nature, there's a lot of truth to that, but this goes a tad into next week's discussion of the liability behind it all, because if a man can behave a certain way, and if the woman likes it, it is very welcome, and then you end up with a relationship or something positive. If you do the exact same thing and the woman does not like it, you could end up basically being canceled out of your church or out of your job or wherever this is happening. Especially if you live in a smaller town, you can be canceled from everything. So, I mean, it goes to a different topic of cancel culture. But if you're not careful, cancel culture can get you on anything. It's not just limited to politics. It's limited. It's basically unlimited, really.
Okay. Any other guys want to speak on that? Sean Williams?
Yeah, it's I mean, nowadays, I don't even think it's because of nowadays. I think I mean, for me, if a woman was to pursue me, and you got to really define what pursue means. And I could just only give you a example. Like, I got a woman at work who she's always flirting with me, playing around, yada, 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 yada. And I have a strict policy. I do not date anybody at work. But like, she's a really nice girl, and we probably will hang out. I won't go anything past that, and we'll stay friends. But not only was I, what's the word I'm looking for? I mean, I was just glad that she got my attention, because when I'm working, the only thing I notice around me is the work that I have to get done. And that's just because I'm just one of those focused people to where even if I'm out, sometimes I'll go outside and I'll shoot video and stuff like that, or take pictures or whatever. If I got some stuff that I need to get done and some video that I need to do, I won't even notice the women around me. Or if I'm at church and doing videos for the church, I won't even notice the women in the congregation. So unless somebody comes up to me and says hi, they will not get my attention. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't look down on a person because of it. Actually, I think it's kind of admirable because that's somebody that's going after what they want. They're just not going to sit still and let life happen to them. They're going to take control of their own lives and their own destinies and make some things happen, But as far as like this church issue with singles, and I knew this was a hot topic because y'all was blowing up the meetup. Again, life experience. I led a singles and campus ministries in my late 20s. And the biggest thing that I learned is that the church has no idea what to do with singles because they could not train me on how to lead a singles ministry. Campus is easy. Kids are in school. But there was a situation where we had some older men that were, and I'm 28 at the time, and these guys was like between 40 and 55. There was about 4 of them that were dating women in the church, but nobody could teach them the things that they should be doing and the things that they should not be doing, because their needs were totally different than the needs that I knew and understand at a younger age. And nobody could help them. So I kind of gave them off to the pastor, and this is a mega church, and they let the married couples deal with them. But the rule of thumb is that single people are unstable. Married couples are more stable, and they support the church. That's taught in seminary. And you want to focus on the married couples because they help the church grow, because they're stable, they fund the church, yada, 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 yada. Irregardless to that, the church I went to had more single folks than married. Huge mega church, thousands upon thousands of people. But again, they had no idea how to meet the needs of anybody that was from, let's say, 28 down, because even my needs weren't getting met. And to talk about what Maisha said, the singles ministry is boring. Yeah, I know, because I had no clue what to do. If it wasn't for my co-leader, who was an energetic, outgoing person that likes to do activities, you know, she told me, she's like, Sean, you don't even know how to have fun. You know, if it wasn't for her, we wouldn't have had any fun whatsoever. But it's hell. I'm not gonna lie. I've done it for years. It is. They have no clue on how to meet the needs of people, to help them go from being single to being married. But but being okay would be, first of all, you got to be okay with being single. You know what I mean? That's the first thing. You know, Paul was okay with being single, but also Paul struggled. He had that thorn in his flesh. You know, you want to be single, and that's great. You want to devote yourself to the Lord, but how do you deal with the burning desire? You know, the Bible said it's better to marry than to burn. You know, how do you deal with that? They had no clue on how to deal with that. You know, take up a sport or something, burn off some energy is their only answer on how to deal with that, you know. And I mean, you know what, this is a kind of a sad subject for me, and I don't even know where to go with this, because a lot of my heroes today, the pastors that have just been falling to immorality, it seems like more and more. Somebody mentioned Ravi Zacharias. I know him. He's my hero. I took his apologetics course. To have him fall, I'm like devastated. Like, I don't even know if I can listen to his messages anymore. So, you know, anyway, let me shut it down. I see you, Jay.
I wasn't thinking about that. I did want to say this about what you just said at the end, because I know it comes up often when a pastor falls. And I didn't put those guys up there to really talk about their failures or what they did good, bad, or indifferent. That's why I was trying to let every video clip kind of give a little bit more to the person than just the issue that they might have, you know, quote unquote, gotten in trouble for. The point I was trying to make, especially right now on your point, Sean, is that you have to remember that people are human and they're going to make mistakes. So I'm not so much concerned about the mistakes people make. And I know I've kind of talked about that before, that, you know, even when you guys look at me, you know, don't look at me like I'm perfect, you know, because I'm going to make a whole lot of mistakes, because I am seeing things from my perspective. And for all the Enneagram people that's been around, y'all know I'm seeing it from an 831 perspective. So that's what I do. In fact, Seconda's been basically beating me up about some of the stuff that I said about Creflo. And I am just going to publicly say it for her, that she says that the singles group down there is very good, and that Creflo really does care about the people in that environment. But, you know, that is not the energy that most people, I think, see him in. And so that was more of what I'm speaking to. But now that that's done, Maisha, if you have another question, or if you want another guy to comment on something, you can. You know, I think everybody knows how I feel about it after studying Enneagram and after studying people. I find that about 1/3 of men like to pursue, and the other 60% do not. That's what I find over and over again.
Well, Jay, on that comment, how you say that only roughly 1/3 of the men like to pursue and the 60 don't. I would have thought it would be the opposite, but my only thing, I think one of the main things that stops them from pursuing is the liability behind it. So do you think the majority of men don't in part because of that?
Well, I mean, I think when we talk about your stuff next week, I mean, we can go into deep. What I'm talking about more is just basic personality. And when we're talking about pursuit, when I say pursuit, and again, we need to make sure that we're all on the same page with the definitions. When I'm talking about pursuit is you're at an event, a woman is across the room, you're attracted to her, she doesn't look at you, she's never paid attention to you. You get up, you walk over, you introduce yourself or whatever it is, and you talk to her. That to me is 100% pursuit.
Yes.
Okay. Now, and I don't know too many guys that like to do that, but I do run into guys that do like to do that, but I don't run into many. Most guys I run into, they like the woman to give them some kind of indicator that she might be interested, or they want to basically be in very close proximity to her and to talk to her. But it takes a certain type of man to basically, without any prompt, without any energy, without anything this woman has done, to get up, walk across, concerned about embarrassment, concerned about rejection, all the other kind of good fun stuff, and then get in front of her and then say, hello, my name is blah, 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 blah. I would like to talk to you, when she's talking to her friends or whoever it is. So that when I say pursuit, that's what I'm saying. And then for all the new people, positioning is just basically the concept of just putting yourself in a position for the man to talk to you. So what that could basically mean is if you're in that environment, you basically see the guy, you're giving him eyes, to try to prompt him to come over. Maybe you and your girlfriend, you say, hey, let's go get something to drink, because you notice that the guy is next to, where everybody's getting their drinks. That is positioning yourself. You're making it easier for him. Now he doesn't have to walk across the room. Now, while you're getting your drinks, you're going to be standing in that area for 2 or 3 minutes. And that gives him the opportunity to say hello. That is positioning. So it's really two different energies about what we're talking about. But I think, to Sean, I think you were next. Did you have your hand up?
Chuck, Fraser, you're not gonna, Greg, you guys aren't gonna comment?
Yeah, well, I was just gonna just put something in actually, and I think it's a thing which a lot of people don't actually think about church. So for example, when you go to church, you're actually worshiping somebody that's single. So Jesus was single. So I think, for example, the married seem to forget that you're all there to worship somebody that was single. So that's the thing I've been kind of feeling about the last couple of years, that the person being, obviously God and Jesus was single. So everyone seems to forget that you're actually there for a single person, if that makes sense. And then the other thing with the married couples is they seem to forget that they were once single before they came married. Once they're married, they've just gone in a complete different, they're in their own kind of bubble, if that makes sense. But that's the thing that I've been feeling, that the person being you're worshiping or believe in is single. So yeah, so I just thought I'd drop that in there. So.
Chuck, do you want to say something about that, about all the guys and how you feel about it?
I'm sorry, were you talking to me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think that, I'm a world changer. So, I'm here, I started going to College Park, when I first moved to Atlanta in 2010. And it is really, it is focused on predominantly married folk. And I did go to a couple of singles events, and they were reasonable. I just, didn't get a good, no, it wasn't for me at the time, but I think that you're right. The church focuses on married couples because that's where, you know, the children are. And I think we mentioned that married couples forget that they were once single. I think a lot of people in church, once they're in church, they forget where they were, you know, when they weren't in church. So I don't think that's just a married folk issue. I think that might just be a in church general issue for some people. And I agree. I'm in the 2/3 that, you know, if I'm getting signals or something like that, that's an open doorway. But I'm also a person that doesn't date folks that on the job. I just keep those two separate things. And I agree with Sean that, you know, when I'm doing something, even in regular life, I'm pretty focused. So, you know, pursuit is one thing, but it generally has to be an open door. And I think a lot of the ladies are good at that subtlety. So if they want you to, or if they're interested, then, you know, they have a lifetime of, you know, smiles, eye contact, you know, body language, you know, I think flicking the hair or whatever, you know, let you know to come on over or say hi or whatever. But it, you know, if you're standing there like a statue, then that's, you know, I wouldn't expect probably 2/3 of guys to just walk over and, you know, take that chance at of either professional or personal injury. So.
Okay. Thanks. Chuck always has some good thoughts, so I wanted to make sure I gave him a chance to talk. All right, so I just took a couple of notes because I too, you know, like many of us, I was in a ministry that, and I was in a very small ministry, so it was like hard to ignore us single people, but they were pretty good at it anyway. So we had some conversations about that, but I wanted to touch on, just follow up on what we were just talking about first, about the pursuing. So if you do attract someone who likes to pursue, what happens when they get you? I'm just asking. Just you know, something to ponder, because what I've heard is that because they like to pursue, they want to continue to pursue. And when they get you, either you're going to keep playing hard to get, or they're going to pursue somebody else.
You mean like a conquest thing? Like, oh, I conquered this, so they want to go conquer somebody else.
Yeah.
That's what I've been saying. It's an energy. The guys that like to do that, it's an energy about them. I have friends that are married, and they still will go out, and any woman that they see, they want to talk to them. You know, and the women will be trying to give them their phone number and stuff like that, and they'll get the phone number, but then as soon as they leave, they just, you know, throw it away because they love that energy of pursuit. You know, and that's one of the things I don't think a lot of women really have internalized. You know, that a lot of these guys that are in that heavy duty, I'm not afraid at all pursuit, a lot of those guys are the same ones that are much, you know, quicker. Not saying all of them don't cheat, because like I said, a lot of my friends, they don't cheat, but they will do it. They have that opportunity. And then I have other guys that are friends, and they'll look at the woman across the way and say, oh, wow, she's cute. If I wasn't married, maybe I might get up and, you know, but it's a lot more hesitancy there. Sorry, Tashawn, go ahead, what you were saying.
No, that's fine. My next question is, do you church actually has the answers to these questions? Because what I've observed is that they stay away from it because they don't know what to tell us. They don't know the answer. And just because they're married doesn't mean they knew what they was doing. So, and we've seen that some of them slip, trip, and cheat. And so the only difference is that they found somebody that was willing to put a ring on it, or that they were willing to put a ring on, and we didn't. But it doesn't mean that they know any more than we do. So I mentioned my church experience, and it was very difficult because I was as Sean keeps addressing, this older single. I was I was close to 30. So I was an older single, and I had been married. I had kids, definitely was not a virgin. And so a lot of things that are normally told to singles was not applicable, would not work. But although the focus is on sex, some of it is on, some of it is really more about sharing your life with somebody and your experiences. And, especially if you have children, like, the pressure of making the right decisions and different things like that. But because I didn't get anywhere with, hey, we need something for singles at the church, then I took it upon myself to put something together. As I think Jay had mentioned, he did at his church. And in the process, I realized that the most important thing was to have a good men's and women's ministry, because as singles, our biggest responsibility is to help each other, as in the opposite sex, be the best partner they can be when they do enter into a relationship with somebody. And so even if you don't have any attraction to anybody at your church, as a brother or sister, you can see how, a person maybe needs help carrying themselves, doing things. I mean, Christian Singles Connect is not a church, but that's what we're doing. We're helping each other to see what we need to do to develop and grow and change. And I tell my male friends all the time, you need to help your brothers out because they're making mistakes that are obvious to women sometimes, but the men who know it, they know, but they're not telling these guys, yeah, don't do that. Don't say that. Don't send that picture. Don't, they're just letting them kind of figure it out on their own. And where I've seen good singles ministries in other religious sects or whatever, sometimes where it's a community and it's not just, oh, we go to church and then we do our thing the rest of the time. There's a lot of involvement from elders to develop the men and the women into being good partners. And so and we've all had that experience, whether it's male or female, where you're dealing with someone or you've met someone and you're like, who raised you? Well, why do you think that this is okay? What are you doing? And I mean, sometimes there isn't anybody to tell them. And we don't have where you hung out at the barbershop anymore and the older men tell the younger men and, and women in the kitchen and older women are telling the younger women. That we don't have that type of stuff anymore. That we could, and we could have it in the church, but that's not the way things are. For some reason, we now have this hierarchy of, like some have said, the singles are down here. They're like second-class citizens. I mean, I had a toddler and an infant and 2 jobs, and the church felt like I had nothing to do because I was single. They could just call me anytime and ask me to do anything whenever. And well, you don't have a husband to take care of, so you must be available. And I'm not, the only one that's had that experience of like, oh, you don't have a life because you don't have a spouse. So that's something that, we have to try to change. But I think probably it's more on us to do it. I don't know if they're going to just automatically or dynamically see it and do it versus us just saying, hey, we need this. We're going to do this for ourselves. And as Sean said, make sure you got somebody partnering with you that's fun if you don't know how to have fun, so that people will want to participate. But the singles ministry I put together, that's pretty much what we did, was focus on how to build each other up and how to be each other's kind of support system and find a way to help each other to address some of the things that we needed to heal from or that we just didn't see about ourselves.
Well, I think Seconda's going to help us with the fun stuff. her and Shafawu. And like I said, if anybody else wants to join that group, the fun activities group, we're gonna get some activities going. Y'all see Sakanda down there at the bottom. If everybody has a computer, she goes by Hickles on here, so she can smile and get ready for all the work she's gonna have to do. But anyway, come on, Natalie Theodore, I'm guessing, because I can't see the rest of your name. There it is, Natalie Theodore. Tell us what you want us to learn.
Hey everyone. So there's a lot of good topics going around, but just to really touch on the singles ministry, I go to a mega church and I went to the singles ministry. I want to say I gave it like 4 tries before I stopped going. And it was mainly because it doesn't bother me so much that maybe even a married couple is like hosting it. But what really bothers me is the ratio, like I think was what was mentioned earlier, which is basically like 4 women to 1 man. And I feel like I think that the church really needs to be more intentional about a singles ministry. And they can be intentional in more than one way. For example, like, I don't know if anyone's been to speed dating, but if you've ever gone to speed dating, if I'm like 30 years old, you're not going to have me speed date with someone that's 50. So I kind of feel like the singles ministry should be kind of like mock that a little bit, where if you are intentional about bringing people like singles together in the hopes of getting them married because you're worried about them, destroying the church or whatever the case is, you should have events where people in the same age group can meet together, come together and mingle, you know what I'm saying? And kind of, even if it was to have a married couple like host everything, I don't think that's a bad thing, because they would probably have more of a nurturing spirit about, and giving more direction on how they even got together and what's the best way to get together. And I also think that the church needs to be more intentional about getting more men into the church, because even besides going and participating in a singles ministry, when I just go to regular Sunday service, the only guys I see are the ones with the families or the ones that come with their partner. So I think they need to do a better job at reaching men to come into the church, and to where they're also helping the community, because I know there's a lot of men out here as well who probably don't even have a father. So you're killing 2 birds with 1 stone. You're like building families within the community and also helping the singles ministry. So that's really what I have to say about that.
No, that was good. Thank you. Come on, Tiff. I think you were next, and then Sean.
So this sort of touches on what Tashawn was saying about, the church having answers and things like that. I think when it comes to singles ministry, it's the first thing they can do to help and serve singles is to humble themselves and admit they don't have the answers if they don't. And I think because I actually get annoyed when I've seen singles ministries led by married people. I think that there's an arrogance there, and it also insults us, saying that we're not capable of, leading that kind of ministry just because we're single. And like you were saying earlier about, okay, you got married in 65. You have no idea what it's like to be, and you got married in your 20s. You have no idea what it's like to navigate singlehood in your 30s or 40s, especially if you've never, ever, you're talking about somebody who's never, ever been married, who's in their 40s. It's like, you have no idea what it takes to navigate through that, especially today. So my thing is, they can really help by serving properly. And you really got to consider, okay, you got some strong godly people who are single in that church who could lead that ministry. It don't always have to be the marrieds, because quite frankly, I'm not much interested in a lot of stuff they have to say, especially when they're older and out of touch.
That's cool. I'm hoping you're not driving, because you've been looking at the screen this whole time.
No, I'm parked.
Aisha driving. She's giving us this perfect, beautiful. She's got her little sunroof. That is amazing, Aisha. That sunroof you got up there. I'm just telling you. Looking at the sky, it's gorgeous out there. Come on, Sean.
one, I think that a part of what we have to deal with when it comes to the singles ministry, Deshaun's the only person that's touched on this so far. What is the purpose of your singles ministry? And that will look different for different churches. Is the purpose in order for you to have a space to potentially find someone? Is the purpose for you to have a space to be told don't have sex until you get married? Or is the purpose of it to give you practical experience of how to continue life in the moment of not having a partner? Because until you do that part, there's always going to be this very mix match concept of what the ministry should be doing, of what information the ministry should be putting out. And then from there, I think she said also about the elders being involved in being able to share their experience. And that lies another issue because we live in a time period and a space where a lot of our elders don't want to share their experience because of the fact that when they did get married, it was not for the reason that someone pursued them or they pursued someone. It for some of them, it was a got caught slipping, so now let's cover this up under the guise of we're married. And then also from that same standpoint, even if you did do it right, you weren't always married and you didn't wait all the way as we teach that we should. But give me the experience of I didn't wait, and here was my experience because I did not. This is why I'm telling you that you should do it this way. Because when I tried it in this particular manner, this was the result that I did not like that happened and came after it. And so it causes that vulnerability piece to come forth that no one wants to talk about because now I'm exposing myself, I'm exposing my own issues. And so, in order to really deal with this in a way that will be most impactful, we have to entertain the idea that even those who we look up to as far as being someone that has gotten to a place where we want to get to, there was a process that they went through to get to that point. And that process is not always cute. That process is sometimes downright ugly and sometimes downright unnecessary, but eventually you made it there. And when we think about the idea of pursuing and positioning, as a male myself, I particularly tend to be one that like to know that there is some type of interest there. I have been the one to try to be bold enough to just randomly go strike up that conversation with someone that I have seen because I found interest. And sometimes there may come conversation out of it. And all the time it doesn't happen. But for me, that was me pushing out of my comfort zone. But when it comes down to it, I think every individual, no matter what we do, want to be able to see that there is some sense of security in what we're doing. And that goes true to the pursuit as well. When we are looking to pursue someone, no one is going to put their money in a bank that they know is not going to give them some type of dividend. That's why you choose a whole different bank. And it's the same way when it comes to looking at finding a relationship. If I know that there's no fruit at the end of this tree, I'm going to go plant somewhere else.
That's what's up. That's what's up. I think, did he freeze? Sean is.
No, I'm finished.
Okay. Okay. Look like you froze for a second. Come on, Sakanda. No, she been ready, boy. She been ready. We can't hear you though.
I think she said
It's quiet time, Sean. Joseph,
We can hear you now. What's up?
Listen, I hear what everybody's saying, and I appreciate the married couples being over, but also I believe at least a single set needs to be there too, because the whole point for some people of going to a singles group is to, come out with producing a relationship. So I know why they put, like how some people say they understand why they put a married couple over a singles ministry. It's because we've been there, done that. We can, and we can help produce what you're looking for. But it's also, like they said, some people may have been married for 20 years. Well, 20 years ago that worked, but when we're in a different world or a different time, we have different ways of doing things. So I believe it needs to be a balance with a married couple and with a single male and a single female. In regards to the pursuing, a lot of times people are going off of what the word says, is that he that finds the wife finds the good thing. And I believe we're dealing with a lot of religion in regards to how people are experiencing how single ministries are being handled. So sometimes churches, they're so busy saying, well, we don't want to do what the world is doing, or we don't want to look like the world. Well, sometimes you have to do what is being done, of course, as long as it doesn't take you outside of your character and doesn't remove God out of the picture. Sometimes you have to do what looks like what they're doing so you can draw people in, in the world, they may have a cookout or doing barbecue. Well, you may have to do the same thing. You can't sit up here and say, well, that's what the world is doing every single time. Then you won't do anything. And another thing is, you may deal with the ratio may not be right, or that day may not be the right thing. Don't give up on the first day. I'm not saying that's what everybody is doing, but don't give up on the first day and search your motives. Sometimes we are single because we are not ready. And I believe that we are forgetting that at times, is that we're not ready. So even if you go into a singles ministry and join that, and you're participating in the game night, and you come out, and let's say it's game night and you're at the table and you're playing dominoes or spades or Uno, but you're showing your character of being a poor loser. Well, are you catching that? Are you catching on how you're going to handle when you're out in the atmosphere, or when it's just you and your spouse? How are you going to handle that? Are you taking it personal? So there is some things that they can show us, because they're saying, even if you want to get married, look, let's see how you're going to handle some of these circumstances that you don't know that's going to rise up, that you don't know that's going to rise up until you enter this. But here we know some of the things that you don't know, and we can address those in advance. And then you also have the singles, the male and the female that may be helping to head this, to give some insight and say, yes, I like that topic, but you can't bring it in the 1970s way. You're going to have to bring it in the 2021 fashion. So I believe that it's very important to have that balance. And I like what Fraser said about Jesus was single, but also, even though he was single, he gave himself. And we have to remember that even when you're single, you still need to give yourself, because guess what? When you're in a marriage, you're going to have to give yourself. And it is sad, like how Tashawn said, how some people think because you're single, you have all the time in the world because you don't have a husband, or they put you in a different category. To me, the thing that I experienced is when I lived in Virginia, and the subdivision I lived in was majority a two-parent household, and I was single when I bought my house, but then I later became married, and there was, I was doing a lot of things with some of the other neighbors. But when my ex-husband and I became separated, or we had our own fusion, they sided on his side, and our friendship with these people that I knew before he came along, it just dwindled down, and you find yourself feeling like an outcast. So you can experience rejection both sides of the streets. One more thing I want to, I know I'm speaking a lot, and don't say nothing, Jay. Also, are we putting limits on who God wants to bless us with? Because we have, like as Jay says, this list that we put out here. God is not searching just the outer appearance, he's searching the inner. So we have to understand that if we're saying, you know what, I don't want to go over there because it's always boring, but what if God said, that's who, look, I got somebody for you over there that just so happens to show up. So we have to stop putting limits on how God wants to do it and on how God wants to deal with us, because when the church was open, and with our church, when they were doing singles conferences, one of the things that Pastor Dollar spoke on is about being whole. You need to be whole first before you go anywhere else into a relationship. Because if you're bringing your past, and if you have a history of, I'll just say, sleeping with people, and if you haven't dealt with getting those dead skins off of you, guess what? You're going to bring that baggage, their personality. We don't realize that the spirits that are attached to us. We don't realize the things that are attached to us. We don't realize the mother and the father issues we may have, or even the sibling issues or the trust issues. So we have to be mindful of, singles ministry may not be all that we want it to be in the form or fashion, the way, as in having a house custom built. But we have to understand, we may need whatever it is at that time. But if we don't want to deal with and listen and not do it not our way and do it the way that God is trying to tell us, then we're going to have some major issues, and then we're going to wonder why we're still single.
So, Seconda.
Thank you.
You did say a number of things, but I want to just add this, and I could just be speaking for myself. So if I am, excuse me. But the thing about being in a church and certain people leading like the singles ministry or things like that is, besides what we talked about, is we all in the same church. So I know you, and I know I can see stuff. So just because you in a marriage don't mean that you know what you're talking about. And the other thing is, and again, this might just be me, but I find it difficult when it said you may not be ready. And this is just totally juvenile, immature reaction. But when I hear that as a single person over the years, especially if a married person says it, and I see them in their situation, and I see some other marriages and their situations, and I'm like, and you saying that you are? You saying that they was? Like, why am I singled out? Like, I got to be in grad school, be ready for married, and you was like elementary school ready for married, and you married, and I'm single. Why is it got to be so hard for me? Why I got to be having advanced degrees and doctorates and everything, and everybody else is just winging it. So, like I said, that's just my little, that might just be me.
I think that's a good point, and I'm about to get to you myself. Because one of the articles that I did find was talking about the lukewarm marriages of Christianity. And a lot of people just stay married because they are Christian. I'll be honest, that's why I stayed married as long as I did. The first couple of years were good, but then quickly the marriage went south, and I just kept praying that God was going to turn it around, and it just didn't turn around, and so I stayed for a very long time. And then I got out, evidently. But, I will say that, you have to kind of see it from both angles, and you have to, and again, for all the new people, that's why we have, like, I guess if we have any pillars as far as relationship, it's 3 of them. We talk about the Enneagram, which is just personality. We talk about maturity, and we talk about stress. Okay, and those are the 3 pillars that I believe are the key elements to not only knowing yourself, but knowing your spouse. and the key things that I see in order to create a really good relationship. And we have videos, because a couple of people have asked me. We have videos out on YouTube on JL Speaks. Just look that up and you will see that. Also, real quick, I'm gonna throw out that there's also a JL Speaks there's a JL Speaks Instagram. So if you guys want to follow out there, I do know I need to update it, but remember I said earlier that I'm looking for somebody that wants to take over social media. So I am trying to update it more, but you know, that's just another place where you can support this group, because y'all know how IG works. The more likes it gets, the more it pops up to the top. And then that means more people can see it. So the more likes it gets. So come on, Masao, tell us what we need to know.
Well, I do want to mention about singles groups. There, over the years and talking to several others who have listened to me on the topic, and these are mainly churches that seemed big enough to have singles groups but didn't, and they seem to be continually under the impression that, you know, we want a singles group just to meet somebody for like a partner, rather than, you know, the first agenda was really to find a group of people who have our similar schedules and life obligations, because like, especially out here in rural Alabama, about 99% of the people my age have families and extended families and their extended families that they go to barbecues and luncheons and all that kind of stuff with. And while the single person is getting takeout and watching Netflix for the afternoon, because they don't have anybody to hang out with, because as far as they know, everybody who is like them is single, and it's just so hard to find each other. And versus they're thinking we're looking for somebody to date, rather than we're just looking for a handful of people to hang out with. And if we meet somebody, then that's a byproduct.
Yeah, that's cool. I agree with that. Masao, can you unmute? Okay, there she is. Okay, you still need to unmute. I keep pushing the button for you to unmute, because we're not gonna be able to hear you until you unmute. You don't see the little button popping up? Okay, there you go. Can you talk now? Can you ready? You can talk now. Did you have a question? You want to say something?
Morning, everyone. It's myself.
Yeah. I mean, then you had your hand up.
I just want to talk about this subject concerning if it's a church which makes us to be single. The first thing, a Christian to be single, it depends of the one where the person gone up of the childhood. If your family was Christian and your parent was married and Christian, automatically you will follow their way. And when you have a maturity, you try to find, if you are a man, you try to find a lady who is a Christian and get faith. If you are a woman, you try to find a man who has a faith. And if you are not found that kind of spirit, you'll be afraid. That's why you stay single and say, okay, I will stay close to my God. You pray your Bible and put everything in practice by looking for the good relation. That's why sometimes the people go more to 40 years or 50 without marriage, because they are afraid. The second thing is depend of of your relationship. If you see of the relation, the friendship, if you see the people married and they were close, the love was in the couple, and after a year the people divorce. You'll be afraid. You say, what this kind of marriage? You'll be afraid and stay in your corner. That's what I'm saying, that one part, the church is make you to be single because you are looking for the perfect person, even though they are not exist, but they want to get faith and go and find the man or a woman to try to change their education and be married. In the other part, in the Bible, it's right somewhere, the man will leave the mother and the father to join the woman to be one. Married is in the church. That's what I'm against for the people who stay single and not be married. Because I say church, in church, we are like this, like church. Church is not, how should I say? It's not make somebody to be single. It's just prepare us, prepare our mind, prepare our faith to be in the good relation. Now, when two people who are Christian, they are married, there are many things they will be afraid to do, to put their marriage to go to take the wrong way, because they are afraid God. Sometimes they will part if it is a woman or if a man or a woman who make a mistake, they will make a pardon and put their knee on the ground and say, God, please give us peace. Help us to grow in the good way of what is right in the Bible. That's what I'm saying, that church is just help us to grow with our faith, to be close, because everybody is grown with his education. And now everybody has a positive point and negative point. And the marriage is the marriage of negative point of the woman with the positive point of the man, and the negative point of the man and the positive point of the woman. We just support ourselves if we are decide to be together and grown on faith in the church. The church cannot influence somebody to be single. It depends on what you are seeing during your life. That is my point of view.
No, that's good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Come on, DB from New York, from Jamaica. Let's hear your beautiful accent.
Hi, y'all. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm really enjoying today's conversation. It's so timely, so good. And I wanted to, I guess, piggyback on a couple of the comments, and I don't remember who said what, so I apologize. But in terms of, I think it was Tashawn who was saying that she gets irked, as do I, when she hears people saying, oh, well, you must not have found your person yet, or something along those lines, because, you're not ready, as though you have to have a whole PhD when they don't even have no degree of readiness. And I think that that's so true. But I think sort of the flip side of that, if that's the right way to put it, is that in some cases, it's true, right? So in some cases, I was thinking that it's actually true, a true statement that the individual may not have had that experience as far as being married, because maybe there are some things that they have to work on. So I'll just use myself as an example, so as not to, suggest anything about anyone else. That was absolutely the case for me, right? So having come close to marriage a couple of times and thinking okay, well, I should have this. Why don't I have this? Or why am I not feeling the way that I think I should feel about knowing who to partner with or who to commit with and all these things? I had some real messed up views, right? Which I'm still unpacking. So to be able to, I guess, have an honest, introspective, and I call it an intimate relationship with God. Really, that's what I call it. I don't think it's about religion at all. I hear a lot of what we're talking about, and a lot of, I think, what we're experiencing with churches is based on religion, which is why they don't have the answers, because religion is an institution. It's not meant to necessarily give us practical solutions or godly solutions for the way we live our lives. I think the Bible is supposed to do that. And I think Jesus Christ, and as an example, is really the best example of that. So my suggestion would be, and I think to answer one of Tishan's questions would be, I think the church really should be looking to how can they really sort of pattern the relationship to serve as Christ did, to really figure out what are some of these, maybe some answers to help singles and help everybody, not just singles. And then I was also thinking, I think as you were talking, Jael, about just some of the, I guess, misconceptions that I've harbored about married people versus single people versus whatever, right? Because it's strange. Like, you would expect that if you are going to be taught by someone who is trying to show you the path to move from singleness to being married and being happy to marry, not just, you know, married and miserable, that you would want to see an example of that, right? But how powerful is it to hear from somebody like you, Jael, where you're saying, yeah, you know, I had this, but this is what I now know that's different from what I knew before. And I just think that that's so powerful. And I don't know that I would have necessarily thought that way before. As somebody who doesn't want to make mistakes and wants to get it right, that was my issue. I didn't want to make mistakes. I always want to get everything right. So I am looking for, or was looking for, a successful, quote unquote, successful model of what that looks like. And people are flawed. People make mistakes, you know? So if somebody is coming and having a conversation like we're having now, and I think just normalizing those conversations in general around, you know, yeah, I was looking to do it the right way. I was looking to do it whatever way. I, you know, fell down, I scraped my knees a couple of times, but, you know, I'm here to sort of educate you about what I've learned. That's dope. Like, I need that, because it's going to help me to hopefully figure out some of my stuff, but then also I don't have to go make some of those same mistakes, hopefully, right? So I really just wanted to like put that out there, because I was convicted by that. I had a certain view and I thought, well, that's what it should look like. And just hearing from more and more people like on this call and other, you know, groups that I belong to, I realized like, no, there's so much value in hearing what other people would do differently, right? That's so very, very important. So that's pretty much my few points.
Oh man, I love it. Thank you so much. You know, I always love talking to you, Dee, and definitely, and again, just because of time, I'm gonna let you go, Natalie, in 1 second. But just because of time, I just want to let all the new people again know that the way that, again, the 3 pillars that we do over here. So we really do work over here to try to make you ready for marriage and talk about what marriage can be like. In fact, we will have some stuff coming up soon, because somebody asked just the concept about marriage, what it's like to be married. That's actually, I think, going to go up online. I think we talked about that last week. And so that'll be up on the YouTube channel pretty soon. So most of the stuff kind of goes like this. We have a discussion, just an open discussion. But a lot of times we really go into depth about personality and different things like that, and the way to interact with people. So that's really important as well for us, because we want to be whole. I don't think you can ever be perfectly whole, but I think you can be whole enough to get married, and you can have enough understanding. So I just wanted to say that, because we are nearing the 1 o'clock mark, and I know a lot of times people start dropping off around that time, because we technically only schedule for 2 hours. So if you do have to drop off in the next 10 minutes or so, we definitely thank you for hanging out, and we hope to see you again. Now it's time to listen to wonderful Natalie.
So I want to touch on the topic a little bit about like the guy approaching the woman. We all know, like everyone said, it's 2021 now, and it's known that women, you know, are supposed to be more comfortable to approach men nowadays. But I want to know, what are your thoughts based on how it was in the 70s, when men really was doing the approaching, and, you know, there were a lot more people getting married then. So I kind of feel like there's a correlation between the men going out for what they want in regards to the woman, and basically having the end result be a marriage, whether it be a successful one or not. The fact is that it happened more often when it was okay for, women not to do more of the approaching, but men to do it. Because we see a drop off on people getting married now when women are supposed to be really doing the approaching. So I really want to know what's your take on that.
Well, my take, and I'll let let the other guys, talk about this because I think this is a good topic, is that I actually think it's always been about the same. Again, we spend a lot of time in this group studying personality, and I think the personality groupings have always been the same. I think that there have always been those guys that were cavalier and they just approached women. And I think that there have always been times when women approach men. You will hear older women say things like, I'm really attracted to the strong, silent type. When you start talking about those types of guys, that's not the type of guy that pursues. The strong, silent type is not that guy. He's the guy that doesn't. I know from my ex, father-in-law, I still, love him. But when his wife died, the women in the church positioned themselves to try to get to him. How did they do this? Well, it was like, oh, Horace, I know that, sister so-and-so has passed away and you must be so lonely. Are you eating? Because I made you something last night. Here's some food for you. And if you need me to come over and cook and clean your house, you just let me know. You just let me know and I will be there. Okay, there have always been women that have approached men. There have always been women that have gone after men. And I've told this group multiple times, my ex-wife came after me. Okay, she made the move on me. It was not in reverse. And we were married for 18 years. Okay, almost made it the whole time. Okay, it does not matter. But this is one thing I will say to your point, Natalie, is this, and I have recognized this with myself. If I make a move towards a woman, I guess it's whatever they call that chemical that releases in your brain when a person can do no wrong. I forgot what that dopamine. There is a dopamine drip.
Rose-colored glasses.
Yeah, the rose-colored glasses. At that point, I'll admit, the woman ends up with a situation where I have rose-colored glasses when it comes to her. And it doesn't even matter if she's really that cute or if I'm really into her. If I have to come out of myself in order to talk to her, there's definitely something that is released. And it's not released through online dating. It's only released in person. Okay, and I've noticed this because I've had about one or two women recently that I've been able to say hello to or whatever. And as soon as I made that in my mind to do that and approach them in a romantic way, immediately they just become all that in a bag of chips to me. In my head, they're just all that in a bag of chips. And like one young lady, she turned me down or whatever. And for a long period of time, it like really hurt me, and I was thinking before I even talked to her, I was thinking, I don't even think this girl's all that. But I was like, well, she's in the church and she's this and she's that and she has all this going on. So I'll go ahead and talk to her. I mean, that was my attitude. But then once I said something to her, there was like something that happened. And I don't know if that's normal. I don't know if that gives guys that extra push. Those rose-colored glasses or whatever happens. So I can't really tell you. But I can just say from the perspective of, like I said, with me, my ex did not necessarily push to get in a relationship with me. She just positioned herself, as Tashawn said. But she positioned herself in a way that was very friendly, open, and I don't really want to say flirty, but I would just say very friendly and open. So when I was ready to make the move, I was able to make the move. And then, like I said, we courted, quote unquote, for 4 or 5 years, and then we ended up getting married. So my relationship with her was almost 25 years. So any other guys want to speak to Natalie's point?
You know, I know for me, like I always try to look at a person's intent. You know, if they coming off whorish, then I know what their intent is. If they're coming off caring and just in a friendly way, you know, that's kind of different. So, you know, I mean, my thing is, let's look at the intent. You know, why are you pursuing this person to begin with? Do you just want to develop a friendship or take things slow, or are you looking for a potential mate or just a hookup or whatever? Because your intent is going to come clear. You can't hide it. But if your intent is admirable, then there's nothing wrong with it. You know, and like Jay says, you want to bake something, cook something, that'll get his attention, because it always gets mine. So you want my attention, cook something, you know, bring it to work, and like I'm all yours. While I'm eating, I can't do nothing but focus on the food and you while I'm eating. You know, but it really is. It's all about intent. You know, so if, you know, your intention is admirable, then, you know, by all means, I think the guy will get the extra push. Also, being friendly and conversational, that just helps, because the more you get to know, the more I get to know a person, the more I would kind of let my guard down and just kind of loosen up. And I understand this with women the same way. You know, the more a guy talks to you and you get to know him, you kind of let your guard down a little bit and be like, okay, he's comfortable, he's safe. Maybe we should go out, yada, 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 yada. But, you know, I mean, overall, I could approach you and say hi and whatever, but it's going to take time to build the trust enough to be able to kind of let our guard down and get to know each other. But, you know, food always helps, at least with me. All right.
Food and alcohol, right?
And
Actually, you know what? I actually stopped drinking. I'm drinking non-alcoholic beer.
Oh, okay.
I don't drink alcohol anymore.
Well, good for you.
Like the taste of beer, Sean?
I love the taste of beer.
Oh.
I told you when I moved to Atlanta, I had to give up drinking, but no, that's just a joke.
Well, Sean, when we have our picnic, you can do some beer batter chicken, or not beer batter because it'd be a barbecue, but some, you know, you soak that chicken in the beer and then cook it on the grill.
That's beer butt chicken.
Okay, beer butt. Oh, what you Sean know? So y'all can get together and make that beer butt chicken.
Oh no, I don't know how to make it. I just know it exists.
Okay, well, Mo has her hand up, so we're gonna go to Mo.
I just wanted to real quick say one thing that I found really interesting when I moved here to Dallas and I was trying to find a church. Every woman that came up to me, the second thing that came out of her mouth was, "This is where I met my husband. Oh, you'll love it here. This is where, you know, I found my husband." And I was just thinking to myself, why is she telling me that? You know, because how do you know, with me as a new person going in, how do you know that that's what I'm searching for, or that's what I'm ready for? You know, and I think just kind of getting back to what your topic was, Jay, I just think that that's just another example that the church, I don't want to say idolizes, maybe that's too strong of a word, but the church just really puts being married on a pedestal. And not that I have anything wrong with marriage whatsoever, you know, because that is my goal too. But I do just find it interesting that was literally the second thing that would come out of majority of these women's mouths was, "Oh, this was where I found my husband. You know, I found my husband here." And I'm just like, how do you know a person that's what they want, or that's what they're searching for at that time? You know, and I think the church should just tread lightly when it comes to singles, because you just never know what a person has been through or why they're single. You know, it's great to be married, but I just think, yeah, churches should just start to tread lightly when it comes to people who are single, and just kind of cater to our emotions and understanding that there is nothing wrong with you. you know, if you're single. There's absolutely nothing wrong with you. Like Tashawn and someone else had said, you don't need a PhD, you know, to for somebody to want you or to qualify to be married. So I just wanted to make that point. I always found that very interesting that was like the second thing that came out of their mouths.
Preach, Mo. Preach, girl.
Well, I thought all women wanted to be married. What, y'all saying that's not true? That's saying that's not true?
Whether you
Still
want
under
to or
debate
not
with me.
doesn't mean that you broken until then. It don't mean that you jacked up until then. And what if you are ready and it's the other, and it's him that's not ready or her that's not ready, and you waiting
It's
for them?
definitely true. All women ain't looking for that, especially when they see that there ain't no prospects around them. It's like, what I got to go through that for when singlehood can be so much better than dealing with you.
Well, y'all gonna, I think Tashawn and Sakanda gonna probably fall in love with Tiffany. Tiffany's an 8 too. She's like us. She's an 8.
Hey, Tiffany.
All I heard was somebody's head swinging and somebody getting told off.
I'm so fed up. I'm so fed up.
Bump that.
Ron is on speed dial.
Yeah, she's like, bump that. I'm shooting up the whole place.
What I find amusing as to how people talk to singles in church, just like, oh, I met my husband here. Well, you know, we're not, you know, whether you're a man or woman, that's not what we're looking for. But what I try to understand is, when people in the church, you know, which is, you know, mostly married, especially in the, you know, college age group, are they really treating us how they would want to be treated if they were single? I mean, seriously? What are your thoughts? I can't imagine that they would want to be treated like how they treat us themselves, but maybe I'm wrong. So put your stink on it. Anyone?
I agree, because I feel as if many churches, they target the single woman. It's like a grooming stage for her once she enters the church. It's like you have to tell her, this is the way you have to behave. And for the single men as well, it's like we come into a class which they label us as this group of singles. And many times they want to teach you, they want to groom you, what you need to do, how you should behave. But yet, many of the married couples, they don't want the single female getting too close to their husbands, or they say that as a single woman, you should be hanging out with married women because this is what you thrive to be in this group, as well as the men. You need to hang out with the married men because this is where you should thrive to be as well. So you are treated different when you are single. So I definitely agree with you there.
Well, here's the thing I have found, and I've found this going to several churches in the last 6 years I've lived here. And I agree with you 100%, you know, hang out with the married men, but the married men are so obligated to their families and such that one, like for instance, on a number of occasions, my larger city counterparts, meaning my family and friends that live in areas like Orlando or Detroit metro and stuff like that, would say, you know, if you're if these married, you know, the people at church invite you to a luncheon or a barbecue or something, you know, you should go and not stay at home. And I'm pulling out my hair saying those opportunities don't come up because we're shunned. We don't get those opportunities. The married men have not taken me in, so to speak, and, you know, and had me hang out with them or give me a little advice or whatnot. They just leave us where we're at. However, with how the married women treat single women, I can't really speak on that because I've, of course, never in that position. I've heard it's very different, because the married women will take them in a heartbeat and say, hey, let's get you a man. And then the single woman may or may not want that.
Actually, one of the things that I think is actually missing, and I was thinking even about having a meeting about it, but I don't know if it's really something that should be a full topic. But it used to be a lot more like you were saying, Sean B, is that it used to be where if you got around, like if a woman got around single women, I mean, married women, and if a man got around, really, man really don't need to be around single men. He need to be around the single women, I mean, the married women too. These women would be on the hunt to try to hook you up. You know, they will be bending over backwards, making phone calls. Oh, I know exactly who I'm gonna hook you up with. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Well, no, I never get that. I never get that. I mean,
I used to have that all the time.
I think a bridge under a troll would probably get those more than I do. I mean, I'm just saying, it just doesn't happen. It didn't happen when I lived in Birmingham. It didn't happen.
Oh wow, that's interesting, because everywhere I went, and I don't care, like I said, what race. It was black women, white women, everybody. As soon as they saw me, they were like, "Oh, he's a single guy. You know, you don't need to be by yourself. You know, I know. You know, my little cousin or my little this or my little that." You know, and they were trying to make phone calls or whatever, and I'm looking at them like, I don't know if I want your little friend or whatever the heck they are.
Well, Jay, you might, or I should say probably do rate higher as an overall man than I do. I'm not trying to put myself down, but I'm just saying in society, you just may rate higher because your professional status may be better, your looks may be better. I can't judge that, but that's what I'm going with.
Well, no, I mean, I think Sean, and I appreciate that, but I think Sean, from the perspective of, I just think it's just certain women. You just got to get around, and that's my point though, but that's my point. I don't see it as much anymore. I used to see it, you know, in my 20s, but I don't see it as much anymore. And you know, this group, you know, has a lot of, you know, the age group in here, like we talked about before, is probably 30 to 50. But what I've learned and I've seen now is that a lot of the women, especially in their 30s, and probably this whole group, they're not doing that. And I know I've brought that up multiple times about, you know, when, like, for instance, almost probably half of the people on this call have at least an opposite sex person that they're friends with, they're single. But how many times have, you know, you tried to set that person up with somebody else that you know that is single that might have been really good for them? And we don't get that enough anymore. There used to be a thing where there was a community that's saying, hey, let's get everybody married. But now I just don't see it anymore. Like, I was really surprised. Like when I got divorced, I ain't gonna lie, I was thinking that every single friend was gonna be trying to hook me up, and I was going to be telling all of them to shut up and leave me alone and get out of my life. And the only person that has been constantly trying to set me up has been my sister. Beyond her, nobody, I mean, one other person tried to do it, and then nobody else did. And that was very interesting to me because, like I said, when I was in my 20s, you know, all the women that at that time, those women were in their 50s, you know, 40s, late 40s going into 50s, which now that would be in their 60s. You know, those women were on the hunt.
So to what do you attribute
cultural difference? What'd you say, Dean?
To what do you attribute that, Jael? I think that's a true statement, but what do you make of it? What's the underpinnings or the reasons for it?
Well, I think a lot of it is just a cultural difference. It's almost like dating apps. You know, people just think you got it all together. They think you can handle it. They think you don't need them. And we have a world now that is very selfish in a lot of ways. I mean, you have to realize they've even been talking about this more and more. It's like when you go to Yahoo and you see your news feed, that news feed is catered to you. Mm-hmm. Okay, don't make a mistake and go read an article about baseball if you don't like baseball, because then from the next year, you're going to get articles about baseball. Because they literally are watching what you read, and then they cater your whole thing to you. And so I think people have that mindset that there's other things out here that are going to cater to you to give you what you need. But what singles need is the right single, you know, so that they don't be single anymore. So you need people actually working on your behalf to actually help you, because if they know that, you know, how my personality is, if they're saying, well, I know somebody that can deal with you, Jay, you know, and they got this and they got this and they wear, you know, glossy lipstick like you like, then I am going to hook you up. Okay. So, look at Sheila gonna shake her head at me.
Hey, Jay.
Yes, ma'am.
You know what? Also, it's the age. Because when you're younger, because the people, you know, it's the stereotype. When you're younger, people are like, oh, you should, you know, need to get married. It's time for you to get married. Have, you know, there's an age, there's a demand that we put, whether we realize it or not. And then when you're older, they're like, well, there's no need for you. You already been there, done that, and you can handle yourself.
No, that's
So
true.
what you trying to say, Sakanda? We damaged goods. That's what you're trying to say.
Yes, Sean, you're cold, you're old and crusty.
He's not saying that. The church is saying that.
It's implied because of how the church breaks the groups up.
Right.
Bogart, yeah, Atlanta more. All right, bye, Dad. Love you.
Well,
I would like to speak. Yeah, I would like to speak a little bit about what JL said. And just so you know, I'm new here. My name is Cassandra. It's nice to be here. I'm loving this conversation. I'm loving the vibe. It's really nice to meet you all. Hopefully we can all meet in person one day soon. But I just want to just talk a little bit about what JL said. My experience, and I tend to stay away from mega churches because that's just not my style. I'm more so like that, the small church type. And so my experience has been in the small church is that whenever I tell people that, you know, I would like to get married one day, most people, especially the women, the older women, they tend to say, well, you don't need a man. Like, you have a good job and you have a great relationship with God. What you need to make, girl, you do yourself. You good, you fine, you fine. And I'm sitting there like, okay, what does a good job in my relationship with Christ has to do with me wanting a man? Like what? And these are married women who are saying this to me. And a lot of them I know secretly, you know, they're in a marriage where they are unhappy. And so they could be, you know, attributing that to me like, oh, don't make the same mistake that I made. But my experience has always been that when I express my interest in getting married, you know, I'm always, you know, told, you know, it's almost like I'm shamed. Like, don't think about that. Girl, you got it, you know, kind of like this whole independent woman vibe, you know. But what I tend to see is that when a man in the church express his need to be married, it's looked upon like a good thing. Like, oh yes, you should seek a wife. You should. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. It's like that double standard. And so maybe that is attributed to, you know, why a lot of people are not kind of hooking people up, because we kind of have this independent woman kind of mentality going on. But I know the research actually says that most people who get married is because of a friend hooking them up, you know? So, you know, kind of like what JL said, where, you know, if you are familiar with someone, you kind of know, hey, you know, this person also likes this, like how this person likes it, or da-da-da-da-da-da. But the research does show that most people, when they do get married, it's because of a friend hooking them up. But anyways, it's nice to be a part of this conversation.
No, I love it. Thank you. I love that. And you know, if you got more to say, come on, talk to us. Because, you know, people like Sakanda, and, you know, she just going to talk whenever she get ready. So sometimes you just got to jump in, Cassandra, and be like, Sakanda, shut up. It's my turn to talk.
Those are cuss words in my house. But I do have something to say now that you want to throw my name out there. Cassandra, I just want you to, what you said was a prime example on something. Like, I have heard people say, I don't want to do the mega churches. I just rather be in a small church. And what God may have for us may be in a small church or maybe in a mega church. But I think we have to understand also is, are we doing all that we can on our part to take the limits off of God? And Another is, you know, the churches, and this is no matter where you go, because I'm talking about people, they do stereotype us. You know, some people like, oh yeah, you don't need to be, you can't hang out with them because they're single, as if we got a disease they gonna catch. If me being single is gonna cause you to get out here and start flirting, that was not me, that was already in you. So I think we have to, one, be mindful is that we got to take the limits off of God. I'll use Atlanta's area. You know, if you're used to going to Kroger's to go shopping or Walmart, but God says, you know, go to Publix, and you're like, well, I don't go to Publix, it's costly, or go to Sprouts or take Trader Joe's because it's costly and I'm on this budget. He's like, go to Publix or one of those places, and you still go off of your list, and it's like $50 over. But what if you get there and the person that pays for your groceries is the man of your dreams or the woman of your dreams or the blessing? And here we have sat up here and said, God, thanks, but no thanks, you know, because we go into a prejudice and a discriminating form and fashion. And we do have to be mindful that when people are trying to stereotype us because we're past a certain age of like, we don't have needs, we don't need, or I'll just say that we're supposed to be these horny people, you know, we're just looking out to see whose man we can steal or whose woman we can steal. Once again, we are dealing with sometimes people's own issues, insecurities, their hurts, habits, and hangups. And I think that's a topic that you need to produce, Jay, hurts, habits, and hangups.
When you gonna do that, Seconda?
No, first of all, y'all gonna stop doing that to me, okay? I'm not in a gang, and you don't need to initiate me.
You know something, Jay?
You need to sign, little lady.
Okay, Seconda, it's my turn to talk now.
Go ahead. Oh,
I ain't scared of you.
Taking charge.
I ain't scared of you. You know what, Jay, my hat goes off to you, because since I've been a part of this group, I've been able to get more help with my own hangups and prejudices and those internal belief systems than I've gotten from any singles ministry in any church.
Thank you.
So the people in this group, we have a willingness to search deep inside ourselves and just be better. You know what, we want to be better, you know, better Christians, better people as a whole. We want to be better so that we can get the things that we really want. You know, I know people that don't want to be married, you know, but the church shouldn't look down on them. You know, like Espogard, I was always invited to, the guys was inviting me over to their houses for the cookouts and all that other stuff. And it was an ambush for me to meet somebody because they were married.
Okay, give me the ambush. I mean,
but here's the thing, Espogard, they was looking down on me like something was wrong with me because I was single.
Oh, you know,
I don't like hanging around married men.
Oh, I agree that you don't want to be looked down on, but is there
like there's something wrong with me because I am still single?
Is there?
Brother Sean ain't worried about that, Sean. He's trying to get him a woman.
Is there, Mr. Williams?
So for Tashawn, I'm still trying to get out of high school. I'll get to the PhD, but I'm trying to get out of high school right now. You know, but you know, Jay, you said the world is selfish.
Mm-hmm.
You know, us in this group are looking for ways to where we cannot be selfish, but we're not the average Joe. You know, most people, like, I mean, a lot of people in churches, the way they are, they're going to stay the way they are. They rather feel sorry for themselves and get sympathy and all this other stuff, but they're not trying to improve to get better or change some things, to have some things that they've never had before. You know, if you want something you never had before, you got to be willing to do some things that you never did. Bottom line, and that's what we're about in this group. That's why I admire this group so much. But yeah, that stigmatism that they put on being single, you know, I'm okay with being single because I'm learning about myself. I know the time will come, but I'm just going to let God do what God does. You know, Jesus didn't live for himself. He lived for other people. You know, the Bible says we no longer live for ourselves. So I need to learn how to serve people, and that will teach me how to serve the woman once she finally comes into my life. But while I'm learning to serve, while I'm sacrificing for other people, it's going to teach me to die to myself, because I know for a fact that when I do get married, she's going to get on my last nerve, and I'm going to need to learn how to die to myself, my own prejudices, my own hangups, all of that crap that I grew up with, that people drilled into my head. That's a whole bunch of nonsense and don't work in today's times. You know, I'll just keep dealing with that as I'm a part of this group and as I go out. So again, my hat's off to you. And now I think I'm going to participate a little bit more. I'm thinking I'll do the YouTube channel. I got some ideas with that, and I'll do the YouTube channel. But that's it. That's all I'm glad. I'm just glad that we're addressing it here, because it is not being addressed in the church. We are not learning more about who we are and what kept us single to begin with, and start dealing with that, you know, before, you know, maybe that's why we're still single, because we haven't addressed some stuff. I don't know. I'm not God. I just know that I need to constantly work on myself to get to that point, because I'm not perfect. Right, Shakanda?
Hey, I think what you said was a whole lot, Sean. That's a lot of maturity. So you are further along. You got your master's, dude. You about to graduate.
Right.
It takes
hear that to Sean?
Yeah. Hey,
y'all hold on for a second. We need to give the other Sean a chance to say something, because he's been trying to say something for a minute. Okay, come on, Sean B.
Well, I just wanted to say to Sean Williams, in the beginning when he said he was being ambushed, now is there any chance that they weren't so much seeing that there was something wrong with you, but seeing that you were, hey, you're a great guy, and they're just assuming you want to be with somebody, and so they're doing you a favor more than looking down at you? Is what do you think of that?
I get the question, why aren't you married?
Well,
I mean, literally, okay. I would get those questions, you know, what's wrong with you? Why aren't you married? Don't you want to be married? Like, even the married men would ambush me.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
and I don't want to hang around a whole bunch of married men.
No, I don't blame you. I mean, if somebody asks me, I don't get those questions very often, but when I do, I say the opportunity hasn't presented itself. Plus, I have not been looking, meaning I'm not on a dating site. I've never been on one. I don't oppose them, but I'm just not, I'm not in the mindset where I want to look that hard, but I'm open enough to where if somebody wanted to set me up, whether that was a person or God himself, my mind is open. Let's see what happens.
These people, oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Mom.
No, just real quick. I just think like these people that are so bold, maybe they should just rephrase the question and go in and say, are you looking to be married? You know, kind of have more sympathy. Because it's just
empathy.
Empathy, yeah, have more empathy towards you. Like, go in with that approach rather than asking, well, what's wrong with you? Why are you not married?
I hate that question. Because I got syphilis, that's why I'm not married. Okay, are you happy that?
Goodness gracious.
If I was to be honest, I would say because I don't like you.
I mean, I know they're like, well, why are you? But when I hear people say things like that, it tells me a lot about their self. And it's like, oh, what you're looking at, because it goes with this. You're a beautiful lady. Why are you not married? Well, same question. Why are you not married? And the whole point is what you're looking at is my surface. You're not looking at who I am and what my expectations. And what I tell them is because I choose to be single and I choose not to settle for less. That's why I am not married. That's why I am single. And that's my personal choice. And I have the right to stay this way if I choose to. Now, when it comes down to judgment day, if God says, hey, I had somebody for you, but you refuse to, then that's me and God. But there's nothing wrong with being single, and like I was gonna say with you, Sean, all the people that are bomb rushing you about hooking you up, you need to pass them to 1-800-BOGART's number. And also,
I was just thinking the same thing.
Yes, you need to post that and say, you know what, I got somebody for you. But on top of that, it always seems like when you're not ready, that's when it comes. And when you're ready, or you feel like you're ready, that's where it doesn't happen. And a lot of times it's because we're not ready when we think we're ready, because we, whether we realize it or not, we're dealing with some anxiety, anxious, so that just tells us, hey, you know what, I need to keep my trust and build up my faith that this is gonna happen. I'm not saying that my feelings are not real, blasé, but I also don't need to be jumping the broom, because the enemy wants his best to move me off of my promises, no matter what that is, whether it's for me to stay single or not to stay single, because he wants to see, can I mess them up while they're single too? So another thing I remember when it was revelation came to me, Satan doesn't have a problem with you being married. His thing is, can I get you married to the wrong connection? Mm-hmm. So, because if you get married to the wrong connection, there's so much that got to be dealt with and untangled, and you may not even know what the purpose is, because you're going bickering. I'm helping to create division and chaos. And with your singleness and your wholeness, Sean, ask a person, what's wrong with me being single? Right. You're putting your stereotype, you're putting your goals off on me. Yes, I appreciate that you want me to experience, because that's something that came to me, is like, oh, they want us to experience their joy or experience the life that they have, if it's a good, genuine one. But there's nothing wrong with us being single. I love my singleness. Like I tell Jay, hey, I got you guys. Why do I need to go get married?
I usually quote Proverbs to them. A nagging wife is worse than a dripping faucet.
Oh, see, yes. And on top of that, because I'm about to go in the gym, on top of that, this right here is ministry. Mm-hmm. And I think it's awesome that how God took advantage of the situation that he already knew was coming, of the shutdown, so we all can deal with ourselves. Right. Some people are going to come out better. Some people are going to still come out the same, because it's all about, are you going to take the time out to deal with you and build up this relationship? For me, I found myself being more distracted and off track. I didn't realize how much of that took place in my life until things were shut down for me to look and face these areas, and even look at like, hey, I'm not spending the time with God like I'm supposed to. I may be doing more running than running to. I may be doing more running away than running to. So as in, like, hey, let's deal with myself kind of thing. So I think it's good when we come to the point of saying I'm okay being single, because guess what? You learn to love yourself. Mm-hmm. You learn, especially if you learn to love your relationship with Christ. And you also have that confidence, within yourself, which draws people. And that's how sometimes people end up coupling up, because that joy draws people, so long as everything's done in a healthy way. But I gotta go. I want to say I love all of you guys. I truly do.
Love you too,
thank you, Tashana. So I'm gonna go be with this young buck who's gonna teach me how to do some sit-ups besides with the fork and the spoon.
He's gonna teach you how to Dougie?
Yeah. No. He's gonna teach me how to drop it hot with these squats.
Yeah, as well, yeah.